Welcome to the darkest corners of human nature where we unravel the chilling tales of true crime. Today, we delve into the reign of terror caused by the infamous Golden State Killer. In the mid-70s to mid-80s, a shadow cast its dreadful presence over the sunny landscapes of California. A phantom, a predator, a monstrous figure who would later come to be known as the Golden State Killer. Over a span of just 12 years, he committed more than 50 sexual assaults and was responsible for 13 brutal murders. These crimes weren't just acts of violence, they were meticulously planned and executed with a chilling precision that struck fear into the heart of every Californian. Homes turned into hunting grounds, nights into nightmares, and the Golden State into a reign of terror. This is a journey through a decade of fear, so prepare yourself for the chilling tale of the Golden State Killer. The Golden State Killer's reign of terror began in the mid-70s in Sacramento. It was 1974, an era of disco and Watergate, when the first whispers of a prowler began to circulate. This elusive figure was only known for petty burglaries at first, but his audacity was quickly escalating. As the months rolled on, the community was gripped by a rising sense of unease. The prowler's activities grew more audacious, as if he was testing the waters, pushing the boundaries of his own depravity. Small thefts escalated into home invasions. The prowler, soon to be known as the East Area Rapist, was no longer satisfied with material possessions. He was now after something far more insidious. By the time 1976 rolled around, the burglar-turned-rapist had committed a dozen assaults. But no one could have predicted how much worse things were about to get. His attacks became more frequent, his methods more brutal. He was no longer just a prowler or a rapist, he was a predator, stalking his victims, meticulously planning his attacks, and leaving a trail of terror in his wake. By the close of the decade, the Golden State Killer had perpetrated over 50 assaults, each one more horrifying than the last. The community lived in fear, their homes no longer a refuge. Night after night they waited, knowing that the Golden State Killer could strike at any moment. The mid to late 70s saw an escalation in his crimes, a steep uptick in both frequency and severity. His reign of terror was well and truly underway, and it seemed as though nothing could stop him. The Golden State Killer had gone from a petty thief to a sadistic predator, a specter of fear looming over the state of California. As the 70s came to a close, the Golden State Killer was only just beginning. The 80s saw an escalation in the Golden State Killer's crimes, his modus operandi becoming more daring and brutal. As we moved into the 1980s, the Golden State Killer seemed to grow bolder. His crimes, once rooted primarily in burglary and sexual assault, took an even darker turn. Now, he added murder to his repertoire of horrors, marking a chilling evolution in his criminal activities. In the early stages, he was often referred to as the East Area Rapist, focusing his terrifying campaign on suburban neighborhoods. But as the decade turned, the violence escalated. The Golden State Killer was no longer just a thief in the night, he was now a cold-blooded murderer. And while we won't glorify the violence by delving into graphic details, it's important to understand the gravity of his crimes to truly grasp the terror inflicted upon the Golden State. His victims were often couples, and his method of operation was meticulously planned. He stalked his victims, gaining knowledge of their routines and home layouts before striking in the dead of night. One of the most notorious cases was the Smith couple in Ventura. Lyman and Charlene Smith were brutally murdered in their home, a crime that shook the community and marked a sinister escalation in the Golden State Killer's reign of terror. The killer's audacity was staggering. He taunted law enforcement, even going so far as to call the police and victims, promising more violence. His voice, chilling and emotionless, added another layer of fear to an already terrified community. By the mid-80s, the Golden State Killer's crime spree covered a wide swath of California. From Sacramento in the north to Orange County in the south, no one felt safe. His crimes were becoming more frequent, more violent, and more unpredictable. With a state in fear and a killer on the loose, the 80s were a decade of terror in California. As the decade drew to a close, the Golden State Killer would ultimately disappear as suddenly as he had emerged, leaving a trail of unsolved mysteries and unanswered questions in his wake. By 1986, the Golden State Killer's reign of terror abruptly ended, leaving a trail of unanswered questions. This sudden halt in his sinister activities sparked numerous theories. Some speculated he had died or was imprisoned for unrelated crimes. Others believed he had simply chosen to blend back into society, the perfect camouflage for a man who had once induced paralyzing fear. For decades, the hunt for the Golden State Killer continued. Tireless detectives, amateur sleuths, and traumatized victims alike were driven by a desperate need for closure. But the mystery remained stubbornly unsolved, a puzzle missing its most crucial piece. The frustration was palpable, a silent scream in the dark echoing through the years. The Golden State Killer, a phantom in the night, had managed to evade the long arm of the law. His abrupt disappearance continued to baffle and disturb, a chilling reminder of evil's enduring presence. The Golden State Killer vanished as suddenly as he appeared, leaving behind a legacy of fear and unanswered questions. Our journey through the chilling tale of the Golden State Killer comes to an end. Over the past several minutes, we've delved into the reign of terror that gripped California in the mid to late 70s. This faceless phantom, known for his escalating crimes, left a trail of fear in his wake, the echoes of which still resonate today. The Golden State Killer's reign was marked by a pattern of home invasions, brutal attacks, and chilling phone calls, each act more audacious than the last. Yet his sudden disappearance in the mid-80s left an unresolved mystery that baffles investigators to this day. We grappled with the terrifying prospect that such a man could vanish into thin air, leaving behind a legacy of fear and unanswered questions. We were reminded that the monsters we fear are not always confined to stories, but can and do walk among us. Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey. Stay safe and remember, sometimes the monsters are not just in the stories.